Welcome to another Monday, and before I get into anything that has to do with this week and this month with horror movies and stuff, I want to mention, I totally forgot to a couple weeks ago, this channel is officially a year old. We posted the first review on September 20th, 2009 last year, where I posted the first review of the channel, House Arrest, and 2 weeks ago, I think it was, maybe 3 now, when I posted the Dazed and Confused movie review. That was the 1 year anniversary. It's too bad we didn't remember. We could have done something cool, maybe do with everyone in the review. Well, not everyone. Everyone, but there's only 3 of us. We need some people on this channel. Anyways, not really important right now, but the 1 year anniversary, so happy birthday to us. Anyways, this month is going to be horror month. We're going to do 3 weeks of just horror movies, and then the last week, will be horror movies or Halloween movies, whichever people decide to do, because I know last year we had a tough time finding all these Halloween movies that weren't just really well known already. But we'll do that, and we're going to have some fun with it. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Ed Gein.
I get lonely in this house, all by myself. Oh, Jesus.
Ed Gein.
It's pretty crazy how fast time's gone since we did Horror Month last year in October. That only feels like a couple months ago. That just shows you how fast time really is going. It's pretty crazy how fast time's gone since we did Horror Month last year in October. That only feels like a couple months ago. That just shows you how fast time really is going. Anywho, like I said, I'm going to be reviewing the movie Ed Gein today. Now, if you don't know who Ed Gein is, he was an American killer and body snatcher. He's often considered to be a serial killer because he was convicted for killing 2 women. However, he's constantly thought of to be the killer of his brother. They found him dead. It was very suspicious. So he can be considered to be a serial killer, but if you look him up, they just state that he is a killer and body snatcher. You may not have heard of Ed Gein, but I'd say that 99% of you will have heard of the things that he inspired. Movie Psycho. Anyone heard of that one? Anyone there? Oh, you heard of that one? Okay. How about Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, before I actually tell you what the movie's about, I'll just let you know a little bit more about Ed Gein himself. He was a body snatcher and a killer, like I said. He was convicted for the 2 murders, but then he also was said to have grave robbed about a dozen graves, if not more. He went to the graveyards about 30 times, and he said that every time that he went to a graveyard, he was in a daze or a trance, and he snapped out of it most of the time, but there were about a dozen times where he left with the bodies and put the dirt back in the grave and went back home with the body. Now, he always dug up graves of women that he seemed to think looked like his mother. They're always recently deceased, and they were always around the same age, and oftentimes they did actually look like his mother, who he had an extremely close relationship with. He said it was his only one true love in his life. If you read a bit more about him, his relationship with his mother is a bit strange. He himself is, of course, very strange, as he inspired the guy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the movie Psycho, so a little bit weird. Leatherface, that's his name. The guy from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I couldn't think of his name, blah, blah, blah. Now, it's probably no surprise since I'm telling you these things that it is known what Ed Gein did and that he was caught for what he did. So I apologize if you're like, what? He was caught? Oh my god. But yes, of course he was. And when the police went to his home, they found remnants of bodies. They found about 5 human noses. They found all these masks made of human flesh, like Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They found other organs. They found bones, like they found lamps made out of spinal cords. They found quite a lot of strange things that he had made from body parts, bones, skin, all these things. It was very, very disturbing. Now on to the movie itself. It's pretty much what I just explained. It's about Ed Gein himself, and there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie, so it shows a lot of things that happened in his childhood with his mother, his abusive father, and so we get to see a lot of that. At times it's a little bit confusing. You're like, wait, is this a flashback? Because there's another time where he'll be seeing his mother who's passed away, and it's back from the flashback, but then it ends up being another flashback, but it's not really a flashback, it's just him being weird, and he wakes up from a dream. So it goes from a flashback to a dream to being awake. So it's a little bit confusing sometimes, and I probably just confused you a little bit more. This movie, it's good. Unfortunately, I don't think it really had the budget that it really should have had. I think this movie could have been a lot better if it had a bit bigger of a budget. I mean, a lot of the effects and things that occur in this movie are just not really up to par. And speaking of not up to par, a lot of the acting really isn't that great in this movie. However, Stephen Railsback does a pretty good job of playing Ed Gein. I'll give him that one. Now, of course, you don't really see a lot of footage of Ed Gein in interviews and stuff like you would Jeffrey Dahmer and, what's his face, dude, Ramirez. You wouldn't really see a lot of footage of him, so you don't really know exactly how he would talk and stuff because this took place in the 50s. But I do think that Stephen Railsback does a very good job of portraying Ed Gein. With that said, this movie isn't really all about horror. It's crime, drama, and then horror. However, it does fit in the horror genre, so I figured I'd do this because I know that a lot of you probably haven't heard of this movie, let alone Ed Gein himself. So, even though you may not come across this movie, like I just happened to find this movie on eBay for $1 because a lot of the movies that I bought recently, they're all from the same seller and for $1, etc. But so I think this is it was a pretty low budget movie, and it's probably didn't have a lot of distribution. So if you can't find this movie, definitely look up information on Ed Gein. Maybe read some, not biographies, but yeah, I guess biographies, I guess you could say. Even his Wikipedia article. A lot of people say Wikipedia is inaccurate, however, that is not 100% true. So definitely check that out. Maybe look up some videos on YouTube if there is any. Find out a little bit more about Ed Gein. He's a pretty interesting person, although it's creepy. It is quite interesting, and you can find out more about the guy who inspired Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the movie Psycho. All in all, it's a good movie. Not the greatest. Okay, I was bored sometimes. If you really want to be scared, this isn't the movie to watch, but it is interesting. It's creepy. A little bit creepy, not as creepy as some movies these days, but this one came out in 2001. It does seem like it's a bit older, and that's another thing I should mention. They actually do a really good job of making it seem like it's from the 50s. This movie seems a lot older than it is. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's good because it seems like it's more authentic from the 50s, but it's a bad thing because it seems like an old movie, not just taking place in the 50s, but the quality's not that great, so I don't think, like I said, I don't think they had a very large budget for this movie. Anyways, I think I'm just basically repeating myself now. So hopefully the other guys this week have some good horror movies that'll actually scare you. But in the meantime, check this one out. It's interesting. That's a one word summary of this movie. Interesting. See you next week.